Yeah. So Dr. Muralidhar is a senior consultant, cataract, glaucoma, pediatric ophthalmology, strabismus, and neuro-ophthalmology at the Eye Foundation group of hospitals. And he's amazing at all of them. And is a true asset to all of us at the Eye Foundation group. And he is going to be talking to us on targeting precision with adjustable sutures.
Yeah. So I'll be talking on adjustment surgery for to aim for better precision. So the reason why we have something like an adjustable strabismus surgery is because the results of strabismus surgery would vary. Varies between surgeons from one surgeon from one case to the other, and you have a number of factors that influence, some of which are in your control and some which are not. So there is some justification for the use of adjustable sutures in but surprisingly, there are no prospect. Sir and I think Dr. Rohit were co-authors in that on single-stage adjustable strabismus surgery. Other than that one study, there's no other randomized control trial, but we have many indirect evidences that point to the value. So one of them states that it enables muscle to be placed in a position that anticipates the drift pattern. But what is really important is the study by Stephen Kraft et al., which said that a good initial alignment could translate into a better long-term outcome. This good initial alignment, whether you achieve it with adjustables or with non-adjustables, you're more likely to achieve it with adjustable strabismus surgery. So this could translate into a better long-term outcome. Therefore, the rationale for adjustable suture as stated by Kraft et al. So this is the aim of the adjustable strabismus surgery, and it also lets you titrate the muscle position. Please note that the maximum amount of titration that you can do is within plus or minus 14 prism diopters. So it is not a substitute for surgical experience in that if your results are way off the mark, adjustables are not going to help you, but it does help you align and adjust within that plus or minus 14 diopter window, which is what we plan in the preoperative period, to have a leeway of 14 prism diopters either way. So some of the indications, I routinely use it for large angle deviations. We recently published a paper in IGO in the December issues. When you get variable measurements, especially in resurgeries, and some I would say some use it in almost all cases because it gives them that leeway which they find very valuable. So you could use it either for limbal or phonics. Primarily, I use it for limbal, except in pediatric, where we use a phonics suture, and then I use the bow tie suture. So timing of adjustment could be immediate, as I would show in the video, or it could be late to 48 hours. And Shokida actually used a separation between the muscle and the sclera, and he adjusted up to 7 days, claimed good results with that. So this is in just the just the bow tie technique, and this is the adjustable. This is how we do the adjustable. Generally, we put the generally put recessions on adjustable. We don't put or resections except in very rare circumstances, because in here you are loosening the muscle. So we use a 1.5 bow tie knot, and once we have tied the first knot, once you have tied the first knot, we measure the distance of the muscle from the insertion, whether it's the desired thing or not. We cut the suture long, depending on how to allow. And this modification for single stage adjustable, that I use a half bow tie knot for the conjunctiva, so it's easy to untie at the end of this thing. So I'll show that single stage adjustable in subsequent videos. This is a patient for whom I have done advancement. So this advancement also you can put an adjustable. Please note, however, that in advancements and resections, you are tightening the muscle. So your union is less firm, and generally I avoid putting these. This is a 5-0 Weichel suture. Generally I avoid putting these on adjustable, but in resurgeries, yes, I have done so. So this is a advancement which I have put on adjustable. Generally you find it easier to slip it back, and do finalize the knot before you close the conjunctiva. So generally I do adjustable resections and adjustable advancements only in single stage adjustable strabismus surgeries. So this is an adjustable resection. So primarily done for the sake of a video in a patient with intermittent exotropia who had highly variable deviation post patch post adaptation. So put both muscles on adjustable. Did not need to adjust, but finalize the knot. For all these, whenever you are tightening the muscle, I use a 5-0 Weichel. For others, I use a 6-0 Weichel. For recessions, I use a 6-0 Weichel. So there you go. So usually you cut a little more of the muscle and you do a little more resection than what you have planned. For tightening procedure, for recessions, you do a little more recession. It's easier to advance the muscle in recessions. And of course, you close the conjunctiva. For all these procedures, better to do a single stay adjustable. Or if you're doing a 2-stay adjustable, to do it within 8 hours or so that muscle slippage is minimized. So in this, I'm showing the adjustment of the muscle. So once again done under surgical asepsis. So no adjustment needed. You just cut the loop and pull out one and tie the other. So if no adjustment is required. So I do not leave this bow tie untied as in. It's always better to tie, whether recessions or resections, always better to tie. So there could be some issues in adjustment. So for adults, you could wait for 30 minutes or a little longer, and initial overcorrections could reverse. The problem with using these techniques in children is that even if you don't want to adjust, you have to compulsorily go back and tie the knot. So we have some other techniques. There is an optional adjustable that I will be covering in the next few slides. So adjustment could be done up to 48 hours. I have adjusted. There is a maximum. I have adjusted these patients, and yeah. So this is the target angle. So whenever you do an adjustable strabismus surgery, you need to have a target angle, and always strive to attain this target angle. For exotropias, we overcorrect a little bit, and for esotropias, it's always to have a optimal correction. So now the problem with adjustables in children, I've used for very young children, like 2 to 3 years also. The need for general anesthesia and concerns about leaving more sutures. You have to take more time, effort, and you need to tie the suture whether you want it or not. So you modify these sutures, and then you can bury these sutures. There are a number of optional adjustable techniques available. The most popular is that by Engel et al. And then usually in the US, what they do is they adjust in the recovery room with propofol anesthesia. What I have found is I found a delayed adjustable suture quite valuable, because I have not found them to be very cooperative on the day or on the immediate day after surgery. So what I do is I operate on Friday, and then I reassess on Monday. If adjustment is required, I do it on Monday, so that they recuperate over the weekend. We have also reported and published this. So this is Mark Engel's technique, where he buries the two sutures, so that if you don't want to adjust, then you don't have to do it at all. There is yet another technique for optional adjustable, and then I'll be showing my technique of optional adjustable, which I modified from Engel et al. And we also, acknowledged Engel et al. In our paper, referenced Engel et al. Because our paper was essentially a modification of Engel's technique. So what we do is a 4-1 knot, and once we have gotten the bow tie,
Hello.
once we got the bow tie, what we do is we bury these sutures. We put a loop, 4-2 knot, and we put a loop. This is a Phonics incision. So we bury these two sutures by taking additional pass, just the way Engel did, except that he used a sliding noose and we have used a bow tie technique. That's the only difference. And he adjusted in the operating room under propofol, and we deferred it for 48 to 72 hours. We have deferred. We needed to adjust only 20% of these patients. The remaining did fine, and we did not find that excess suture was a cause for excessive inflammation or whatever. So we found this a very useful technique. So this was one patient with a large angle exotropia. So I've operated on 3 rectus muscles, got an initial overcorrection of around 16 to 18 prisms. So advanced one of the lateral recti. So this is again referenced in our paper published in IJO 2019. We advanced and we got an optimal alignment, and patient continues to maintain a very good alignment till date. So this is how we advance in pediatric adjustables. So I just have one more video and I would wrap up with that. So we open it's always easier to advance. We leave a bucket handle suture which helps us in traction. And once we have untied that, Once we cut the pole sutures, we have used a bow tie in all our techniques because I learned the bow tie technique, which I learned from Sharma sir.
1 minute remaining, sir.
Yeah, sure. So we have advanced this rectus muscle again because we got a large overcorrection. So now this is my last video, and this is our technique of single stage adjustable, which again.
Surgery is done with the anesthetist on standby. A bolus dose of fentanyl and midazolam
This is for
is
large angle
given.
exotropia. And for large angle exotropia, that is more than 45%, we are often at, doubtful as to whether we need to do 2 muscles or 3. So what we do is we operate on 2 muscles and then assess the patient, because the surgery is done under topical anesthesia with fentanyl and midazolam, which was originally described by Sharma sir. And yeah, once we have done the surgery, we get the patient to sit up and then plan surgery on the other eye depending on your results. So this we have used it extensively for large angle exotropias and esotropias, and we've got very good results. So
A residual exotropia was noted. The other eye surgery was planned accordingly.
and once we did the other eye patient, we managed to get a small ESO for distance and ortho for near. So we had yet another patient. So this was the patient. So he had a large angle of 50 for distance and almost 60 prism for near. So when we did one eye, we had a residual exo of around 25 PD, and then we resected the other muscle and we got a good alignment. For this patient who had around 45 prism diopter, we got good alignment with one eye surgery. So the last photo is the long-term, after long-term follow-up. So we got good alignment. So we did not do the other eye surgery. We have found this to be a very great help when deciding surgery for large angle exotropias, especially 50 plus. Especially 50 plus. This has been very valuable, and we have also published this in the December issue of IGO. This has got published in this December issue of IGO. And these are the other optional techniques that I just wanted to include. For inferior rectus, you always need to use non-absorbable non-absorbable suture whenever you are operating on the inferior rectus. So Kushner semi-adjustable technique, I have not used this. I have used non-absorbable, but just for completion's sake, what I will put. The problem with adjustable is that it never replaces surgical experience. The maximum you can hang a muscle is 6 millimeter, and if you want more than that, you have to do a hemi hang back. And of course, recovery of muscle function. There, I would say modify that only one randomized control trial, that is Sharma sir and Dr. Rohit Saxena's study is available. Complications by and large are rare, and adjustable. Our adjustable rate is around 20%. That's what we have reported. And my heartfelt thanks to all my mentors, and thank you so much for bearing me through the presentation.
Superb, Murli, Dr. Murlidhar. So when you do this large angle surgeries, you said you operate maximal RNR and then you measure and then you plan for the residual squint in the other eye.
Yes. No, actually, what we do is for 40 to 55 prism diopters, we operate on 2 muscles in one eye. Yeah, we do a maximum R&R, and but we put the lateral on adjustable. All recessions are routinely put on adjustable, and then we assess. Like if it is only a few prism diopters, like let us say 6 to 8 prism diopters, you can get away by slipping the lateral a little more. But if it is a large residual, like especially for above 40, it's always unpredictable. If you get a large residual, we plan surgery in the same sitting. For above 55 prism diopters, I do 3 rectus muscle, putting 2 on adjustable. And sometimes, I would say 20% got aligned with this technique. But for the remaining 80%, I had to operate a 4th muscle. All that done in the same sitting.
Okay. So what is the follow-up that you have, like as compared
follow-up
to
up to 1
staging?
year, follow-up up to 1 year we have. We published follow-up up to 1 year. We published, and we got a success rate of close to 86%. And only distance deviations were considered. Now we got a success of 90%. The maximum residual deviation that we had at 1 year follow-up was close to 20%. That was the maximum.
Why 2 muscles on adjustable?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, our technique was modified from Dr. Hong's technique, which was published in JAPOS. So Dr. Hong, for very large angle exotropia, she said more than 120, that was what she targeted. So she operated 3 muscles and she put 2 on adjustable starting at 10 millimeter lateral rectus recession. And the maximum lateral rectus recession she did was 16 millimeter. So the maximum you can hang a muscle is 6 millimeter beyond. So if you are taking a bite on the lateral rectus at 9 millimeter and you fix it, and let's say you've done 3 muscles and you have fixed it and you have a residual of, let us say 30 prism diopter. So you're left with little option. But if you have 2 lateral rectus, you slip both a little bit by 3 millimeter, and then you can add a medial rectus also, then you get optimal alignment. So all this done under topical with fentanyl midazolam, of course, subconjunctival this thing also. So this was the scenario which Hong et al. Also discussed in a paper. Like if you do 3 rectus, let us say you have done 2 lateral rectus 9 millimeter, and you have done 1 medial rectus of 6 millimeters. So let us say it was a very large angle exotropia. The original was, I mean, some of the exotropias that we have operated as close to 80-90 prisms also. So you have done 9, 6 and 9 on the other eye. Now you are left with a residual of, let's say, 35 or 40. So you will never be able to cover it unless you have 2 lateral recti on adjustable. I have found that even slipping it back to, let us say, 12 or 13, 14 was the maximum I did for lateral rectus. The abduction restriction was not that great at 1 month. It was only 1 minus or so. So that was the maximum I have slipped, 14 millimeter lateral rectus and 2 medial rectus 6 millimeter. And finally, patient ended up ortho, did not complain of double vision and had a restriction of only 1 minus.
So you still had one virgin muscle
from Hong's paper. Hong also did up to 16 millimeter. I've done up to 14 millimeter. Yes, so Dr. Kavita, you had something to add.
You had one virgin muscle left in case.
Yeah, one virgin muscle left in case lateral rectus slipping is not going to work. Like if you have a residual of 30 or 40, which was not very unusual. So you have 2 laterals to slip back and 1 more muscle. Which I have operated 4 horizontal recti also for very large angle exotropias, which measured 95 prisms and all. So I have operated 95 means the actual is, if you follow Rosenbaum's table, it's actually 140 prisms. So getting 70 prism from 1 eye, it's very, very difficult. 70, and only then you will land up with 140. So in those patients, I have slipped the lateral rectus to 14 millimeter, operated both medial rectus and got the alignment.
Murli, I have done muscle transplantation.
Yes. No, sir, I was just looking for you. I mean, I was thinking how to silent for such a long time. No, I have not tried muscle transplantation as of yet. I have not tried. You have tried?
Don't say I'm not trying. Say I'm not trying yet.
What is your take on use of adjustable sutures for inferior rectus, Murli?
Madam, for inferior rectus, I use non-absorbable 50 Ethibond sutures, madam. Whenever I have used 50 non-absorbable Ethibond, only problem is that a few years down the line, the suture tends to extrude and cause trouble. So you have to take the patient back to surgery and cut those sutures. That is the only disadvantage. But Dr. Burton Kushner has also reported a semi-adjustable technique. I have not tried that semi-adjustable technique as well. But yes, for inferior rectus, I always use non-absorbable sutures.
And I think one more precaution has to be taken, like we have to remove the adipose tissue, which is behind the inferior rectus muscle, because that will prevent the muscle from attaching to the globe. So the tenons, which is there posteriorly to the inferior rectus, has to be removed. And then it has to be put on, I think what you said is correct, like we put on 5 polyester suture. So that will prevent the muscle from slipping out. And keep the muscle recession not to recess the muscle too much, because the arc of contact of the inferior rectus is very less. And then you have the Bell's phenomena, which is preventing the inferior rectus from getting attached to the globe. So I think we should limit unless like I do maximum 6 millimeter. What is your limit for medial rectus recession, inferior rectus recession only?
For inferior rectus recession?
Yeah.
You are asking me, sir?
Maximum recession.
Maximum I have done is 6 millimeters only. So maximum I have done is 6 millimeter for this acquired bilateral superior oblique palsy. Also I have done 6 millimeters, and for thyroid also. Thyroid sometimes I have done 6.5, not more than that, sir.